Good morning, America, and to all four corners of the earth. I hope your day is going well and that you make this a great day. I hope that when you put your head on your pillow tonight, you can say, you know what? No regrets. I left it all out on the field. In our continuing series about possibility thinking, let's chat today about living a truly extraordinary life. My guest says anything is possible in life, but everything lies on the other side of fear. Today's program is being brought to you by StreamYard. Put the power of live streaming to work for your business, your brand, or your cause. You can stream live to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Periscope, and the like. Go to StreamYardCause.com now and sign up for a free account and get a $10 credit. That's StreamYardCause.com. StreamYardCause.com. My guest is best known for his 15-year career in real estate. With more than 2,200 homes sold, he closed Utah's most expensive home sale in history at $32.5 million. He's coached more than 1,500 agents, authored the best-selling book, Next Wave of Influence in Real Estate, and is the author of the new book, You End Up Where You're Heading. And he is the creator of his own podcast, The Jimmy Rex Show. Friends, let's welcome to the program, Jimmy Rex.
Cause, thanks for having me on, my man.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. So let's talk about living an extraordinary life. Let's talk about your book. Let's talk about master networking, all the things that makes Jimmy Rex tick. Yeah. So let's start by share some good news. Tell us some good news about what's happening in your world.
Oh man, you know what was something really cool I did last night is I decided to just put my phone down and go for a walk for about an hour. I just walked around the neighborhood and I just was staring at the moon, staring at the stars. And it was such a peaceful thing. And I know it's not like this grandiose thing, but I mean, I kind of said to myself, when was the last time I just stopped and stared at the stars? And I had this really cool moment where I just got to be with myself, left my phone. And that was something that I hadn't done in a little while. And so that's something that was on my mind right now. That was a beautiful thing.
Isn't it amazing when we talk about having an extraordinary life? We think it's about scuba diving in the depths of the ocean or climbing a great big mountain or just doing something extraordinary. But it really comes down to the small and simple things that sometimes we take for granted.
It really is. It's funny. I was at a Tony Robbins event one time and they said, all right, I want you to think of just a very happy place, just somewhere where you've been completely at peace and it's funny because I've been to 69 countries. I've ran with the bulls. I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I've jumped off of whatever, you name it. I've done all these different things. And when I was in that moment, I was thinking of like basically rolling around on the ground with my nieces and nephews and playing board games with my best friends. It's just like those simple, beautiful moments where you truly can have presence with people that you love and experience. And that's one of the things that, I think people get misconceptions of is like this, the hidden dangers of living a safe life. It's the subtitle of my book. And a lot of times I didn't want people to be scared away thinking like, okay, you have to have this grandiose life, because ultimately all it is living the life that you want as opposed to, the things that you don't want. But those little things truly are what make life so beautiful.
It's really the salt and pepper that gives everyday living just great flavor and things that we can take for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. Just staring at the stars, or just, I was actually, like I have these little things that I do in a daily routine, and most of them, people that when they think of me, they think of bigger things because I'm always, got my hand in a million different things. But some of my favorite moments are like taking a bath by myself and just, having little conversations with people that from my life. I don't know, just it's those little things every day that truly make us happy, I think.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think we lose focus of that. And when we have guests like yourself on here, it's easy to focus on the grandiose, the Mount Kilimanjaros, the 69 countries. I've never run with the bulls. The bulls would the bulls would meet their match.
Yeah,
with me.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's just a great place to start, because living an extraordinary life doesn't mean that every day is Disneyland and the Super Bowl.
No, I mean, I think ultimately when we're connecting with other human beings, that's what we're looking for in life. Everything that we do, we want to connect. It really is all about love, and we're trying to find these connections. And I think what I try to help people understand is to be very intentional about it. I think too many people, they end up letting people into their lives they don't necessarily want there, or they take a job that is just kind of like not quite what they were looking for, but it kind of showed up, or they even date or marry somebody that just happened to be there when they were a little lonely or in a bad place. And what I try to help people to understand is the more you can design this thing, the higher quality of life you're going to have, and you truly get the opportunity to design your entire life. And that's really what I try to help people understand. But it takes a lot more work that way. It's lazy to be friends with just whoever happens to live next to you, or whoever sat next to you in school, or whatever that might be. But like, to strategically design every part of your life, like who inspires me, who do I know that shows the ultimate level of integrity and love, and who are these people I want to be around, and what do I need to do, who do I need to become to be able to actually be friends with these people, or what do I need to achieve in order to experience life on the highest levels, and to experience it with the people that I love, or to be able to take that time and go do. And so I do think as much as anything else that I preach to people is trying to build your life by design, like actually know where you want to go with your life. And if you don't, that's why the book's called You End Up Where You're Heading. If you haven't figured this out, you'll kind of just end up where you're heading. You'll just kind of go, you'll just kind of end up in this spot. And at the end of their lives, people don't regret the things they did. They always regret the things they never did. And so that's what I try to emphasize in the book, is that we can really build this beautiful life. We get to absolutely design it, and the universe tends to conspire in your favor when you know where you want to go. So many things I've put out to the world, I've put out to the universe. I want to be this, or I want to do this, I want to achieve this. And it's so funny. It never shows up the way that you think it's going to, but it always seems to show up when you put it out there and you truly live to go do that thing.
I like what you're saying in terms of being. Because when we think of living an extraordinary life, we think about doing and having.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a theme here on the program about being.
Yeah.
That we have to be a certain person to attract these opportunities, people, and circumstances into our lives. When did you know what you wanted to be? And then how did you design it? When did that actually happen in your life? Where were you?
Well, I think that's always, it's always evolving. So for me, there was things when I was younger that I knew I wanted. I didn't know why. I probably had bad motives for some of them. But then as I evolved and got older, I started to I just studied success. I read 50 to 100 books a year, or listen to, and I try to really understand what successful people have done, like people that are living an extraordinary life, like the people that have the best marriages. I kind of try to watch that and say, what are they doing differently? People that are build the best companies, or that have these amazing success with investing and things like that. I try to get around them. I try to understand them. I've had the opportunity to be around some of the most amazing humans in the world. And I try to see how did they tick? What drives them? And then I try to implement those things into my own life, or help that to guide me for who I want to be, or where I want to be as well. But I think one of the mistakes that people make is they don't spend enough time actually figuring out their why. Like, okay, why do I want this thing? Like they'll say, like, I want a Lamborghini, for example. I'm like, why? Why do you want a Lamborghini? Do you want a Lamborghini because you're insecure? Do you want a Lamborghini because whatever? Like maybe you feel like then you would have arrived. Like so, instead of trying to get the Lamborghini, then you get to go, okay, well, wait, what would I have to do internally? What would I have to learn about myself to actually heal myself, or be able to feel fulfilled, feel loved, feel like I'm enough, as opposed to just buying this car that might do it for me. Now, the car might just because I want to share experiences. I want to have the most amazing, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love this. And then that might all be part of it. And so maybe it is a good chance that you should buy the car, but you just want to kind of do the work to figure out what that's all about. And I always joke that most people spend a lot more time planning their wedding than they do planning their life. They'll plan a vacation more than they plan their goals for the year. And so I've spent months and years, always, every day, every night, trying to go through what I want my life to look like, who I want to attract into my life, and then who do I need to be, or what do I need to experience to do that. And it's helped me to be able to take some of these risks. It's one of the reasons why in the book, again, the subtitle is called The Hidden Dangers of Living a Safe Life. And most people get kind of settle into this safe life, not because that's what they always wanted, because most of them didn't want that. It's because that's where they feel comfortable. Most people would rather stay in a bad relationship than take the risk of having to find a new one, because at least they know what the bad is. And people will do these weird things to have certainty in their life because it's one of the human needs. But what I always tell people is the more you can embrace uncertainty, to find the delight in uncertainty instead of the danger, oh, your whole world can open up.
Don't you think that's what holds most people back is that darn comfort zone? We
Uh,
just want to be comfortable, but it seems like Jimmy Rex is comfortable in the uncomfortable, and that's a great lesson to reinforce here.
yeah, you said that
Everything looks
perfectly.
uncomfortable. I bet running with the Bulls was not comfortable.
It was not. In fact, we go to Pamplona and we didn't know what we were doing. I was like in my young 20s. We didn't have any money. We're sleeping in the park. We get up the next morning and you start running. And I remember halfway through the run looking at my buddy, like, what have we done? What is wrong with us? And I got a picture of the dude in front of me getting flipped up by the bull and I'm standing behind him. And but it's like you do it and then all of a sudden you're like, that's when you're alive. You're like, oh my gosh. And one of the wisest things I was ever told. I was swimming a couple of years ago in the Atlantic Ocean, middle of the ocean, on a liveaboard boat with about 12 of us. We were swimming with tiger sharks with no cage. I mean, giant 14-foot tiger sharks. And one of the guys with us, he's actually the top shark photographer in the world. This guy has taken photos of more different species of sharks than any human that's ever lived. A guy named Andy Merge. And I said, Andy, he gets the opportunity. He goes on these trips basically every week to different parts of the world. He'll go walk with polar bears. He'll go swim with alligators in Mexico. He'll go swim with whatever, or do all these different things. And he said at the end of our lives, the amount of life we feel like we actually lived, we will only be able to relate in terms of time to the extraordinary experiences we have, these amazing things. And he said, so I try to create extraordinary moments or moments where I'm doing something that gets me feeling alive, gets me out of my comfort zone, because that is how you create a very fulfilled life. And so I always try to think like, how can I make this experience something that somebody will never forget? And so if whatever I'm doing, if it's a trip that I'm going on, if it's a night out with friends or with a date or whatever it might be, I try to create the experience to be something that won't be forgotten. A lot of people, I mean, they just numb themselves. There's so many things you can numb yourself to today, whether it's social media, whether it's the news, politics, a lot of people, sports. I mean, there's a lot of the great guys I know will sit and watch 12 hours of football every single weekend during the football season. That's insane, right? I got buddies that will line up 3 back-to-back NBA playoff games right now. I'm like, you're just numbing yourself to the beauty of life. Like, are you going to remember 4 years from now any of these games? But we just fall into this comfort. We're just like, I like this. I feel good. I like watching sports, and so I'm going to do it. But at the expense of living, it really is. And so I think, that's where you have to reevaluate your life, evaluate your goals and say, are my goals big enough that they scare me? Are they big enough that I actually want to go after them? And then most people, even if they figure out what they want, if they don't get a big enough why, they're not going to do it, because there's a lot of pain associated with accomplishing goals. There's a lot of pain involved with building a company or traveling the world or doing all these different things. It's just easier to go to the same place again and sit at the beach or at a pool or whatever it might be and just kind of relax. And so I don't know. I think that the more people can understand this, I think the more they'll realize, oh, I am numbing myself to what I truly want. And I'm just kind of settling for what's good. I'm just kind of settling for what's enough. Like in the book, in the first chapter, I talk about, it's like spaghetti night again. You're stuck in traffic. You're opening your lunch from a plastic container. These things that just to me symbolize death while living. And I always want to be pushing. I always want to be finding the next adventure, the thing that lights me up, that keeps me feeling alive. So
what is your why?
So I have a lot of different whys. It's always changing, right? But so my life's purpose, I'll read you my mission statement. The purpose of my life is to share my tremendous love with all of God's children, bringing happiness to others through my playful soul and by being an example of living an extraordinary life. And my whys are always, again, I have multiple whys because some days are just really hard. Sometimes work sucks. And so I have to have as many whys as I can. I'll give you a couple examples. One of the things I talk about in the book is I've had the opportunity to be part of some special operations where we go undercover and help rescue kids from being sex trafficked. I've had the opportunity to be a part of 11 of those ops now and rescue over 100 kids. And I keep a plaque that Tim Ballard, the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, in fact, I have it right here. Tim Ballard gifted me this. This is some of the money that we used to rescue some of those kids after an operation. That stays right on my desk every day. It's a huge why for me, because when I was in my 20s, I was building my real estate career and I knew I needed to get to a certain level, but I never knew why. I just was kind of trying to survive. I mean, every time I felt like I got ahead, market would collapse again or whatever else. And I was so grateful. I just had this future self that I wanted to make proud. I knew I was going to have opportunities. I didn't know what they were. I had no idea that would be a part of my life. I just knew I needed to be able to show up for people down the road. And that was my big why, was show up for your future self. That's what I always would say. Like, I don't know who needs me. I always figured it'd be my family or kids or whatever else it might be. But that's one of many opportunities that I've been able to be a part of, some special things I've been able to do that I had to push through the hardest times. And so that's a huge why for me. And that'll be a part of my life for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a part of doing those things. You know, I was able last year, my entire family, I mean, every family goes through a lot of things, and a lot of people have a lot of just tough times that have hit them. And so a big goal I've always had was to be able to take my entire family. There's 7 kids in my family. I have 26 nieces and nephews. So if you include their spouses plus my nieces and nephews, there's 37 of us. And last December, I was able to take my entire family on a dream vacation. I paid for all of us to fly down to Florida, go on a Disney cruise to the Caribbean. And that was, you know, I was able to give that experience to my entire family. And I watched, you know, one of my brothers, for example, on the trip that has had a tough go for quite a while, maybe a decade. And we called him Vacation Sam, because he was like, I've never seen somebody so carefree and happy, and feels like it's kind of carried on. He's really seems like he's in a great place. And to be able to do things like that for people that I love, for my family, for my friends, those are the things that light me up. Those are my whys. Those are the things that I keep, you know, close by, so that when times get tough, or when I want to settle in and just kind of relax a little bit, I realize, no, there's so much more to all this. I can do so much good in this life if I really push myself.
I like how you say in your mission statement that you have a playful soul.
Yeah.
That's what I've been able to observe, is you're playful.
Yeah.
You enjoy life. You go on those underground railroad missions, hikes, all those fun things. But let's be honest, you work damn hard too. So have big balance in your life. Last year, you sold 340 some odd houses here in Utah.
So 324 homes between here and Florida. We sell a lot in another state as well, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of hard work. Tell us a little bit about your team that allows you to do that, because you're not just a solopreneur, you're a true entrepreneur, and you've built something pretty special. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I got into real estate, you know, like every real estate agent, I got in because I wanted time, freedom. I wanted to be able to have my own schedule. I wanted to make a ton of money and do all these things. You get in there, and for the first 7-8 years, it was just a grind. I was working 70, 80 hours a week with no money at the end of the day. And I was like, what am I doing here? I'm spinning my wheels. Then you kind of start to, you know, get some momentum. I was a top agent for several years in a row in the state of Utah. And eventually what I did is I decided I was going to go get my master's degree at Arizona State. I just wanted to leave for a year. I just wanted to go somewhere and try something new. I was too comfortable, frankly. And I know that that's a bad thing. So at the top of I was number 1 agent in the county. I left in 2012 to Arizona State for a year, but I had to prep my team. I had to learn how to do real estate without physically being there, so that I could do that. And so I put a system together. I started training towards that. And that actually ended up being my best year ever while I was gone. Humbling a little bit, but realized I'm not as nearly as important as I thought I was. But what I learned as well is that I can do all these other things if I have the right people around me. And so I was very strategic about finding some amazing partners. I've got one guy on my team. You know, well, my brother Dale, I mean, I can give him a client and it's done. Like, he's been with me for a dozen years now. My team manager, his name's Chris. That guy doesn't miss a thing. He cares more about myself than I do. Truly, that dude cares more about me than I do. He's my best friend since I was 12 years old, and he runs everything for me. And he keeps it. I don't have to check things. I don't have to wonder what's going on. I just know it's dialed in. And then I have a guy on my team named Tyler that handles all of our investors. And that dude alone closed over half of our deals last year. He's just a horse, and he's so good. He's such a numbers guy, and he's so good at putting things together. And so my job has been to, you know, get my name out there, get people knowing we're the best there is at this. You can trust us. You can trust that we know what we're doing. And I let my team do a lot of that work, where I get to go and just keep building and building and building these relationships, doing these other things. And so when I went to Arizona State, again, that's when I had to start learning, I don't have to physically be there. So like last year, I took 127 days on vacation. In 2019, I went to 26 countries, and it was our best year yet. Sold over 300 homes. And so I work my butt off, but I do it in a way where instead of just trying to hustle, grind all the time, I've tried to build this fire where people want to come get warm. Like, it's an attraction thing. And so I try to attract to me all the best people. and my friends and my clients. Now I haven't had to cold call in, since 2010. I used to just pound the phones all day, but that's kind of been the new method. And so that's what I try to teach other agents or other people to do is, look, instead of just trying to pull people to you all the time, just make it so that everyone wants to come and do what you're doing. Like we have made it so that we're very easy to refer. We've made it so that people can give their family or friends our number and they know they're going to get taken care of. And so our team's actually pretty small. There's only the 4 of us that work on the team. Essentially, we have a couple administrative staff, but the 4 of us that are agents. And between us 4, we're able to do a large volume and just, there's agents that make more money than us. There's agents that sell more homes than us, but nobody, I think, has a better time doing it than we do.
Well, that's true. Let's talk about that for a second, because this goes back to this theme that we have as far as being a certain type of person and attracting opportunities into our life. You're a master networker. So you used to pound the phones, like you said. You don't do that the same way. You do it by building quality and quantity of relationships. You're pretty famous in Utah for your fireworks display. So tell us a little bit about how you network and what your philosophy is about people.
Yeah, no, and that was really the game changer for me. In 2010, I was pretty burned out in real estate. I mean, I'd been working really hard. I'd been pounding phones, and it was really hard to sell houses because everybody was upside down. And I was pretty much done. And I had a real estate coach. His name is Bill Pipes. This guy's literally the top real estate coach in the country. I just happened to, because of my success at a young age, me and him got connected, and I was able to have this guy as my personal coach, and changed my life. We sat there in 2010. I said, dude, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm burned out. I'm not having fun. And he goes, well, what do you want to do with your life? I said, I want to be working with charities. I want to go on amazing vacations. I want to build relationships with the top people in the community. I want to, do a lot of cool things through social media marketing and other things. And he said, let's just do that. And so we set up this entire system essentially that was, the Zig Ziglar, if you want to get everything you want in life, help enough other people get what they want. So we set up kind of a system to do that. And so what I started doing is every month I would throw a client party. And one of my first philosophies, I got a couple of networking philosophies. I'll kind of work into this story, but my first one was anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Anything worth doing, you got to do it right. Become the place, the party that everyone wants to be to. And so for me, that meant if it meant doing a party once a year or once a month, it was going to be the place to be. So for my Easter party, my buddy that has a helicopter comes and drops 10,000 Easter eggs all over all the kids, and we just make it the coolest party ever. For I did a Sub for Santa or a gala, black tie gala every. I would do it every December, and we'd raise money for a different charity. And I started doing it for the Operation Ground Railroad and Child Liberation Foundation, some of these organizations that rescue kids. And we do these black tie galas where, we had some of the most amazing, talented singers in the country come in. Rudy Gobert, the Jazz All-Star Center, co-hosted it with me one year, and the Attorney General of Utah. But I just created these atmospheres. I would make it the place to be where everybody was like, if they weren't invited, they'd be like borderline offended, like, I can't believe you didn't invite me to that. And so I just made it a very attractive thing to come to. And then I started adding in vacations. I started doing these big group trips. I wanted to travel the world. I said, if I can build relationships doing that, then that's an ideal life for me, because there's something different that happens on a vacation. If you've traveled with a lot of people, this, like, you form a different bond. And so I started doing these Lake Powell houseboat trips, for example. And I remember on one of them, I met a guy by the name of Trevor Milton. And this dude was just an interesting guy. First entrepreneur I knew that had sold a business. It was doing the thing. And long story short, he and I ended up going to Hawaii, a group of 30 of us, about 6 years ago. And that's when he and I really became best friends. And Trevor told me about a company he was going to found called Nikola Motors. And if you've heard of Nikola Motors, been in the news a lot the last few months. We went public in May. I was one of the seed round investors in Trevor's company. I gave him $500,000, my whole, honestly, every dollar I had at the time, because I knew he was going to pull this company off. And as of this morning, it's a $15 billion company now. And I met Trevor on a vacation, just putting a group together, a group of fun people, and we connected. And Tyler, the guy I was telling you about on my real estate team, the one that sold over half our homes last year on our team, I met him in Lake Powell on a couples trip in Lake Powell, a different Lake Powell trip. And so I really would make it a strategic thing, but I wanted to live that life anyway. I said, worst case, I'm going to have a very fun life. Best case, I'm going to meet amazing people, form these bonds, and do amazing things with them going forward. And so I was able to form a lot of really cool relationships by putting myself out there. My assistant, I remember at first he was like, was like, dude, you're always gone. You're going on these trips. We got to work. And I'm like, trust me. You just trust me on this. And then we counted one year, like 57 of our deals had come from me going on vacations. Literally, it was like, he's like, I get it. Whenever you want to leave, take off, do whatever you want to do. And so I've been able to, have my team trust me. They understand what I'm doing behind it. But it's been really cool. And I've had so many great relationships come from that. And so one of these networking principles is you have to have proximity to greatness. Like I always try to level up. I always try to meet people that are doing a little bit more than me, right? So like when I started doing podcasting, I was like, all right, well, there's a few guys that are the best at this. Tim Ferriss and David Meltzer, some of these guys I've been able to meet and be a part of every single one of them. Like, and then I want to get into YouTube. I said my favorite YouTubers are Prince EA and Jay Shetty. Well, I am releasing this week a video I collaborated with Prince EA. Him and I have become close friends, and we're doing these cool projects together. When I got into speaking, I was like, okay, the best in the world is Tony Robbins. And well, Tony's been undercover with us several times, with Operation Underground Railroad. I've been able to kind of be around Tony over a dozen times and learn from him and do some of these things. And so I'm always trying to get proximity. And a lot of times you got to pay for proximity. I mean, I had to raise a lot of money to be a part of Operation Underground Railroad. I donated a lot of my own money. There's a group right now I'm a part of called the 100 Million Mastermind. A guy by the name of Dan Fleischman, if you've heard of him, he's the youngest guy to ever take a company public at 23 or 24 years old. It was Who's Your Daddy? It was like this brand he had, and the dude is a genius, and he's the most connected guy in all of California, if not the country. And he had all these people around him that I wanted to get to know and I wanted to meet. And I was like, gosh, and so I joined this mastermind. It cost me $100,000 to join that mastermind. And I share that because people are like, how do you get around these people? How do you experience this stuff? It's like, A, you've got to become the kind of person they want to be around. So if you actually get in the room, you can connect and make a relationship. But two is you've got to, be able to do enough with your own life where you can actually pay to play and put yourself in these positions where you can benefit their life and they therefore benefit yours. You form these really cool bonds and relationships. And so because of that, I've been able to network with almost anybody that I've wanted to over the years. I've been able to form some of the best relationships with these amazing people. And I just choose, I say, all right, who inspires me? Who do I want to be around? And then I'll figure out a way to bring that person into my life and create value for them. And I think that's the third principle I wanted to teach is everybody needs something. It's your job to figure out what it is. Like everybody always wants to, meet people, but they'll ask them, they'll be like, how can I provide value? How can I bring value? And it's like, dude, you just gave me an assignment I didn't sign up for. I don't know what your skill set is. I don't know who you are. So it's your job to research somebody enough, to try to figure somebody out enough if you want to get to know somebody, and then you provide value your own way. Like, how can you do that? And there's so many different ways to do that. I've done it a million different ways with a million different people, but you have to create value. And when you do that, you form bonds and they really appreciate you. Everybody wants more money, more time, and less problems. So if you can solve one of those three issues, you're going to be able to network and build a lot of awesome relationships.
That's a great key. We were talking about this yesterday on one of the programs. It's about creating value. And people are paralyzed right now because the world has changed so quickly. And they're trying to reinvent themselves, trying not to become obsolete, trying to figure out what the new opportunities are. And that just seems to be the theme this week of provide value. So what's one of your methods to determine what each of these different people needs in terms of value? Because from what I'm hearing you say, it's not necessarily, well, I want to sell them a house. Mm-hmm. You're finding other ways of providing value to develop these relationships.
Yeah,
what's your approach there?
That would be selfish. That would be me trying to provide value to me. Like if I was just like, I want to sell them a house. Like, well, if I was like, I want to sell them a house for free, maybe that would be providing value for them. But so what it is, it's getting outside yourself. So you can tell so quickly if somebody's coming from contribution or not, and they can't even help themselves. People that aren't, they'll immediately tell you about their thing or themselves, or they'll try to start telling you about what they need from you. Like, I'll give you one really quick example. So I got a buddy named Jason Van Camp. This dude is a hero of mine. He was special forces military. He served multiple tours where he was, he was the leader over thousands of troops. And he wrote a book called Deliberate Discomfort recently. That's an amazing book, talks about all these amazing military guys. But Jay, when I first met him, he just got back from being in the military and he didn't really know anybody. He's later 30s. And he was just kind of trying to figure out, like, all right, who am I going to be friends with here? I'm going to try to be dating. And so one of the things I did with Jay is I I just invited him on a trip I was going. I was like, come with us, dude. You know, and he ended up meeting some amazing people, some of his best friends. He ends up meeting his wife eventually through that group and all this cool stuff. Well, last year I called him up, and he's just so fun to go hang out with because he's, you know, he's special forces military guy knows what he's doing. I'm like, do we need to go on an adventure somewhere? Like, let's go travel somewhere. He goes, actually, dude, going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with this amazing group called the Water Boys, Chris Long and Haloti Nada, some of these NFL guys, some military dudes, some wounded warriors. He's like, I think I can get you on. And I'm like, shoot, man, let me know. And where I'm going with this is he gets me on this trip. That's who I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with. And he and I had become best friends. But one of the things about Jason that I loved was I didn't really know what he needed at the beginning, but honestly, he just needed to meet people. So that was such a simple one that led to this most amazing relationship down the line. I was giving Jason, he has this kind of a two-part story. He has a nonprofit where he helps ex-military guys or former military guys meet with entrepreneurs, and they form together to work with businesses. Because a lot of these military guys, they get back, they don't want handouts, they want a purpose. And so he helps them get the education behind business. He helps them form with like people that have money, venture capital, stuff like that. And he did this Shark Tank event, and I was on the Shark Tank event, and we ended up buying into a knife company with one of the guys. It was really cool and all this stuff. And I talked about this principle of networking. Literally at the event, it somehow came up where everybody needs something. Try to figure out what that is for that person, and don't make it about yourself. And this is where I bring this all the way back. It can't be about yourself. It really has to be about that person. You have to give it expecting nothing in return. Like truly expect to not get anything in return. And then people will feel the energy of what you've done. They'll feel the authenticity of it. And after that event, this guy came out to me. He's like, man, I loved everything you said. He's like, I have a window business. And he hands me his card. It's like the first thing out of his mouth. I was like, I just told you, didn't you? He's like, if you ever know anybody that needs windows, I'd love to be that service for them. I'm like, no, you just are trying to pitch me. Like, you literally didn't ask, like, find out one thing about me to get interested in me at all. And so the first thing and the most important thing you can do is get interested in that person. And you have to truly be willing to give without expecting anything in return. And so, like, there was a guy this year that wanted to help me out. And he said, hey, I want to provide value. I'm like, cool, man, good luck. And he's like, well, one thing I do is I cut lawn. He's like, could I do yours? I'm like, well, what do you charge? You know, I have another service that does it. And he's like, I want to do yours for free. I'm like, well, I'll pay you. He goes, no, I want to do it for free. I want to truly do this. I was like, okay. And the dude, I'll give him so much credit because he's been cutting my lawn all year and he hasn't asked me for one damn thing. Well, when that guy needs something, 100% I'll help him out now. Like, this dude has showed up every single week and taken care of my yard because I wanted to see if he was truly coming from contribution or if this was going to be like, no, I'm just doing this because I want to get in, you know? And opportunities will present themselves when you give. They just do. People want to help people that are givers. They want to help people that are doing good things, that have that energy about them. And so the number one thing I could say is you've just got to not make it about yourself. Like, so many people like, how long do I do it for before I finally ask for something? I'm like, you don't. You just give. And when the opportunity presents itself, it will. But you got to do it expecting nothing in return. And that's the hardest part for people because they're hungry now. They need money now. They want their service done now, whatever it might be. But you've got to do it expecting nothing in return. And then you build a true bond. You form that really amazing relationship. And then, you know, something comes of that later. So that house that you said at the beginning, Trevor, I sold him last year. It was a $32.5 million house, the most expensive home ever in Utah, by about double from the MLS. I was doing things, and me and Trevor were doing things together for 6-7 years where I never once bothered to ask him about anything. When he went to buy the house, he found the house. Like, I didn't even, like, he'd been looking at this house. It was on his dream board for years. And he's like, hey, I found this house. I'm going to buy it. Why don't you come up there with me and just check it out? And then kind of help me put the offer in. I mean, I put 20 minutes into that deal, if I'm being honest. And it was the largest commission ever paid out in Utah. And so I didn't have to ask Trevor. I didn't have to beat him up to try to get him to work with me. I just formed this true relationship before he had all this money and wealth and everything else, you know. And then again, it just kind of happens. And so that's the hardest part. That's the thing I most emphasize to people is truly give, expecting nothing in return. And if you do it that way, your world, A, it'll just be beautiful, and B, opportunities will open up that you never, much bigger than you ever could have imagined.
But isn't that the key? So that transaction maybe came down to 20 minutes, but it was 6 or 7 years in the making.
Yes, exactly.
And I think we are very short-sighted in business trying to be transactional when that just really doesn't work, because the best business relationships are 6, 10, 20 years in the making.
Yeah, it's very hard to do, but you've really got to look at the long game. When real estate in Utah got very tough, I was working with a lot of investors from 2011 to 2017, 18, and then it got really hard to find investment deals. And I had 100 guys that were like, "Dude, you're the guy. Tell me what to buy, and I'll buy it." And I didn't sell them anything right away because I personally wasn't sure they'd be great investment deals. Like, it turns out now the markets kept going up, it would have been fine. But in my heart, I didn't feel that. And so me and my business partner, Tyler, we went out and we searched over 92 markets across the country who had the best opportunities for investment deals. And we found a couple cities that did. And every one of our people that have bought there has made a ton of money. They're cash flowing much better than they would have in Utah. We actually make a lot less money per deal by sending it to Florida. We have to share it with these other agents and everything else. But my clients have done so well with them. And so it's been really cool, because they know that we had their best interest in mind. We weren't trying to just put them into any deal like a lot of agents probably did. And, I don't know if that pays off today, tomorrow, or when, but eventually all these people that make all this money are going to come back and like, wow, you really had our back. You had us in mind, and they're going to forever want to work with us. And so it's really cool. Like, people know when you're just trying to earn a buck or when you're really putting their best interest in mind.
Well, and I believe most people are just impatient in business, right? So to use the law of the harvest, sowing and reaping, they put the seeds in the ground, they put a little water, a little fertilizer, but as soon as they see the seedling, they're yanking it. They're like, is it growing yet?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from you is you've got to be really patient for the long game. A few weeks ago, we had my friend Brian Tracy on, and he said something that is in perfect alignment with what you're saying. And I just want to underscore it today on the program, because this is just so powerful for all of us to remember. He just said, whatever you give with no expectation will come back to you in the most unexpected ways. And I hear you saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It took him 73 years to get to that conclusion. So kudos to you for just having that be your philosophy. And it's one thing to say it, but back to what we were talking about in the beginning, you have become that. And I think that's the difference. This is just how you live now. Relationships and surround yourself with great people.
Yeah, people always say, teach me your real estate system. And I said, guys, here's the trick. It's not a system, it's a way of being. And that's like the number one thing I can tell people.
A way of being. Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's like, I'll give you an example with the Operation Underground Railroad stuff. When I first heard about it, I just said to myself, oh my gosh, I have to be a part of this. It's one of those nudges in the ribs where you just know, like, life brought you this because you need to be a part of it. And they kind of tried, they had so many people that were trying to volunteer in different things. And I just knew I wanted to be a part of this. And I just refused to go away. I donated money. I raised money. I became an asset in every way I could, until they finally were like, all right, this dude, I went through a bunch of training, and they said, all right, this dude, let's put him on one. I just became a person that created a lot of value for them. And that's how I kind of got my foot in the door. But what was cool was, when I first started out, I had no idea. I just wanted to be a part of the actual mission itself. Like, the coolest part of it is, like the guy I donated, they said, well, like, one of the things you need to do is you got to fund one of these ops yourself. And so I took the money. True story, at the time, I'd just given the money to Trevor for Nikola Motors. And so I was pretty broke. I had this emergency savings account with like 50 grand in it. I basically emptied it to pay for this op. And if they'd have known how little money I had at that time, they would have never let me pay it. But I knew I had to be a part of this. And I didn't know it would come out of that. And financially, I wasn't even thinking about that. But the side product of that is when you start joining a cause like that, when you put yourself out there and you find opportunities to join a group like that, you surround yourself with other people that are that way as well. Like, other people that are very passionate about helping other people. And all of a sudden, I had these most amazing people coming into my life that, like, we were tight. When you go undercover with somebody, like, you put your life in each other's hands, you form a special bond that can't ever be broken. These are my brothers. Like, these are literally my brothers. I was just in Lake Powell last week with 4 of them. We spent the week down there, and they're literally my brothers now. But, like, it's so funny. Like, one of the guys formed a $16 billion real estate fund, and I've learned more from just listening to that human than anything I ever would have learned in 10 years without him. Another one of them owns a huge pharmacy company, guy just printing money, and he's the most amazing person, gives everything away. And I just get to watch this guy. He's kind of a stoic, and I just get to see how he works. I'm like, He's the most grounded man. I just love him so much. And then another one of them is like an expert on social media, and I've like been able to study him, and that's how I kind of built up my pages. And I just get to be around these people because they're like-minded people and they're doing such great things with their life. And so I always say, like, find amazing causes, find things that you're passionate about, and go all in. Like, give more than you can. Like, if it doesn't make you uncomfortable, you're not giving enough, whether it's time or money. Like, I gave so much, like, I laugh about it now. They laugh. But my point of that is I've had probably, I mean, just in the last year, I've probably had 6 or 7 multi-million-dollar real estate deals come from this little group that I met. And each one of those checks was bigger than the one I wrote to join them in the first place. I never did it for that, but that was the side product. And these people, they're the kind of guys that they're like, they'll call me up. They're like, hey, I'm buying this house. I need you to be my agent. Like, that's happened on 2 deals in literally in the last 6 months, and multi-million-dollar deals. And it's just like, I'm like, and I asked the one dude, I go, you don't need an agent for this, right? And if you've already like negotiated, he goes, I'd never buy a home without you, right? And I'm like, man, I freaking love these humans. I have the best people. But that's what you get when you give and you come from that place to start with. That's, the kind of people you get to be around and spend your life with.
So walk us through the mission then that you funded, that op. What was it like to actually rescue those kids? I know that you probably can't tell us too much where you were or any of the particulars of the mission or the op, but what did that do to your soul when those children were liberated? Because that wasn't a $50,000 investment. That was priceless.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you go through all the emotions, right? Because you've got to become like close friends with these horrible humans, these traffickers. And like the first one I went on, if I'm being honest, I was just showed up for the takedown. The first couple, I was just there for the takedown. Then I got to go on the pre-op team, which actually goes in and finds, the traffickers and stuff. That's a lot different scenario because that's more dangerous, and you have to play the part a lot more. So the ones, like, I'll tell you about like the third or fourth one I did. That was when I went in with the pre-op team. And I mean, you literally go down to the beach in this resort town in central South America, and you're just trying to find, people that are trafficking kids. So you start out with the street hustler, the guy that's slinging cocaine and marijuana. He usually introduces you to somebody else, and then they introduce you to the trafficker. And almost every time, that's kind of how it worked. And you have to become best friends with these guys. Like, they have, they're trusting you. That our whole cover is that they think that we're there for that purpose. And so you have all the emotions. Like, you want to kill these guys, but what I did personally, I would pretend I was acting in a movie. That's the only way I could kind of do it well. I would just said, this is my role. This is how I'm going to be. And then I'd play that part. I mean, we even have different names and everything else. And so, but we would do that. And then, one of the most human moments I ever had, I'll tell you a quick part of this. So we set up the sting. We set up this whole thing with the federal police, and we're going to take these guys out. We're going to rescue, I think on that mission, it was like 17 girls. And the guys come in for the party and all this stuff, and they bring the girls in, and I'm sitting in the corner, and I saw them come in, and I had this weird moment where I had this ultimate empathy for these traffickers. And I just was like, where'd you go wrong, man? Like, who hurt you? And it was the most human moment, because even this horrible, awful human, I was able to just kind of have this level of like, damn, man, like, because I knew in 20 minutes, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison getting gang raped, basically. And so, I mean, it was going to get really bad for this guy real quick. And then all of a sudden he opened his mouth and started talking again. I was like, oh yeah, you got to go, this freaking guy. But there was that moment. So you go through all these different emotions, and there's fear. Like, we've had moments where we're like, oh shit, we got to get out of here. Like, we're in deep trouble. Like, this is not a place we want to be right now. You go through all of that. And I remember I came back from one op. We'd set it up, but we hadn't done the takedown yet. And I told my roommate at the time, my buddy Trav, I'm like, dude, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, I thought we were dead. And I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do it anymore. And then we went and did the takedown. And I'll never forget taking these guys down. These were evil dudes. Some of them are bad dudes. Some of them are evil dudes. These guys were evil. They had an organization. They were trapping girls. I mean, it was bad. And when we took them down, that feeling was it was just so amazing. It was such a beautiful experience to know and to see these girls that were not going to have to deal with these guys anymore, and how many future girls. One of them was a junior high school teacher, a woman that was using her position in school to pull these women into trafficking, not knowing what they were getting themselves into. I mean, just some really awful things. And to be able to take them down, and we're sitting in another room. They handcuff us as well, and they take us in this other room. And I'll never forget, the main dude that was such an arrogant ass. He just thought he owned us because he thought we were, his little bitches. But and they're just tasing his ass. And I just remember we were just laughing our asses off. And it was just such a beautiful experience to know that that dude was gone and these girls were free. And I said, that day we were flying home and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life. And so it's crazy, man. It's an experience. It's an adventure. But, I talk about it in the book. It's like, we wouldn't even know if it was Wednesday or Thursday. It didn't matter. Our purpose was so huge in that moment that it was the only thing that mattered was doing our job there and experiencing that and really being a part of that. And so it's a really special thing that, to be able to be a part of something like that.
So part of the cover was for you to act the part, and it looked like you were being arrested too.
Yeah. I've got videos of us getting arrested and stuff.
So you're a part of it. It looks like you've infiltrated them. So all of you get busted. You all go to jail or whatever.
Well, they take us to the airport, but yeah.
Yeah, and then you're peeled off, and they have no idea who you really were then.
That's correct.
The traffickers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they could tip people off in the future. So
yeah, even if local police even finds out about us, we're in third world countries or Latin America, and so if local police finds out, we actually who we really are, we have to break off the op because we can't trust anybody. We only work with U.S. vetted federal police and stuff like that.
Wow, that is an amazing experience. So you will do that for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're I was, in fact, Monday, 2 days ago, we had a big donor that wanted to be a part of what we're doing in Vegas. This guy he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He said, I want to be a big part of this. So me and two of my team members, Paul, the guy that originally got me in, and another buddy, we flew to Vegas, had lunch with him, built this connection, set up an event that we're going to do together in Vegas to raise money, and flew home. I was home by 6 o'clock that night, but that was my day on Monday because it's like I'm a realtor, that's my day job, but I do big things like that. Like that day was specifically to kind of help this cause. And, a couple Saturdays ago, my buddy Trevor, the one that owns Nikola Motors, I wanted to put together a private event with him and Tim Ballard, the founder of Operation Gun Railroad. We watched the new movie coming out, The Sound of Freedom, about Tim's life up at Trevor's ranch, and just was making connections. Every week I'm doing something to kind of help this cause, whether it's awareness, an event, raising money, or doing the actual ops, which has been, hard to do with COVID. We haven't done anything, but anyway, so yeah, this is a huge part of my life that I'm just very passionate about. It's one of those things that we used to say, like, the good news about this is whether you're on the right or the left, we can all agree that kids shouldn't be trafficked, but all of a sudden it's not so clear anymore. And that's kind of a disgusting thing to think about, but we'll always fight for the good guys and win.
Amen. So I'm curious, how do you focus? Because these opportunities just seem to be coming to you, and it would be easy to get pulled in a million different directions.
Yeah.
So what's your game plan to stay focused on the long game? Or is it, I think most people just are in a rubber raft going through the rapids of life, right? And they're just fighting to stay away from the rocks. But it sounds like you're in a different place where, I'm not saying it's a lazy river because you're very busy and I understand the philosophy, but there's a flow to your life. Like, you don't know necessarily what next week looks like because you don't know what opportunities around the corner.
Yeah.
But how do you focus to stay true to your mission?
So there's a couple important parts of that. Number one is people put these expectations on what their life needs to be. And that's where a lot of the pain comes from in life. So I talk about this in the book. It's like the number one thing you can do is kill the expectation for what your life needs to be. The most beautiful life is just a complete mess. I always say my life is just a beautiful mess. And so I'm willing to accept whatever comes to my life. And instead of seeing that as challenge or struggle or whatever that might be, I see that as part of this beautiful mess. So I don't spend time worrying or trying to make my life what it doesn't need to be. Like, I have a vision for my life, a very clear vision for what I want my life to be, but I'm very open to the idea that it's going to be messy and I don't know how that looks. So I'm open to whatever the universe brings to me. That's one way I do it. And by the way, most people's expectations for what their life needs to look like, it's not even their own, it's somebody else's they put on them. So I encourage everybody listening to this to kill the expectation of what your life has to look like or what it needs to be like. My life looks nothing like what I thought it was going to 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's so much better and so much more beautiful, but that's because I accepted whatever the universe brought to me, and I was willing to adapt and be open to whatever that might be. The second thing is, and this is probably the most important life hack that I can give, is learn the power of the word no. people say yes to so many things that they don't want to do. The HOA president or the whatever thing, or whatever this might be, lunch with this person or mentoring this person. Like, I am so good at saying no. Like, I say yes to the things I want to do. And it's very easy for me to say no to other things. And I don't even have to explain myself. People all the time will be like, well, no, I just want it. And I'm like, no, thanks, not interested. Like, doesn't fit into what I'm doing. And when it was hard when I first got into real estate, because I'm trying to make connections with everybody and, build my sphere of influence with as many people as possible. So I said yes to a lot of things, and I was getting pulled a lot of different ways. And then I learned as I got, older, I said, only thing I have that I don't get back is time. Like, so I don't do anything I don't want to do. I don't do anything that doesn't fit with my goals, with my alignment. If somebody, reaches out to me and they want to be a part of my circle or my life, if they don't align, if their energy's off or their frequency's off, or I just don't want to be a part of whatever, it's a very easy, very quick no, and nothing else needs to be said or done. So in a given day, I'm saying no to 10 things for everything I'm saying yes to most of the time. And so learning the power of the word no guilt behind it. Because if you don't build your own vision and work towards it, you're going to be building somebody else's. Everybody always wants your time. They want your influence. Like, people literally hit me up 7 or 8 a day, probably wanting me to help them with their thing. And unfortunately, and I'm, for every person that, I reach up to, I try to reach down to somebody else. I'll have, I got a meeting right after this with one of my buddy's kids. Is looking to get into real estate. I'm going to spend an hour with him. But I wanted to do that. That was like my way of gifting that back. So it's not like I'm just saying no to everybody that wants help, but you have to be very strategic about who you give your time to. And I just don't let my energy or time flow to things that don't align with my own vision, my own mission.
Was there a point in your life where you said, I'm throwing these social expectations and these dogmas out?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of social dogmas and expectations, especially in the culture in this area. At what point did you say, I'm not living my life according to someone else's dogma?
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant thing that I'm getting more and more of. Like, I'm still learning that. I grew up in a very religious household. I went on a mission for my church from age 19 to 21. I was living a certain way, and the hardest thing I ever had to do was kind of look at that and decide if those were my beliefs or what I thought was authentic. I talk about it in the book. It's called Entering the Cave, where you have to kind of rip yourself open and decide, like, wait, are these my beliefs? Are these my morals? Or am I living my life, or am I living this because this is what I'm expected to do, or because this is what I was taught that is right or correct? And it's the hardest thing I've ever had to go through, is because you have to go in and do it alone. But all the time I'm challenging dogmas. I'll give you a quick example. I was a close buddy of mine. He's a guy by the name of Sean Whalen, and he's most direct human you'll ever meet. He's big on social media, influencer and everything.
He is direct.
And me and him were laying there at this cabin. We were 8, 9 buddies just hanging out at a cabin one night. This was in February. And one of our buddies invited his brother-in-law to come with us. And none of us knew him. And this guy was just, his energy was off from the second he got there. But me and Sean are laying there. We're having this really cool, intimate conversation, just laying on this bed and talking about life and, dating and all these different things. And this guy walks up and he says, hey, I've been looking for you two. Specifically, I wanted to talk to you two tonight. Do you mind if I join you? I said, no problem, man. Come join us. This dude walks over, and we've been having these really cool moments, these talk. And this guy comes over, and his first question out of his mouth is, he goes, if you guys could be a superhero, who would you be? And as soon as he asked it, I'm like, oh shit, because I knew damn well, like, Sean was going to ream this guy a new one. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I knew exactly. I was like, okay, I'm going to feel bad because it's our buddy's brother-in-law, and I'm going to answer this question. Halfway through answering it, Sean's going to tell me to shut the hell up. And so I'm like, and it was just so funny, like the whole thing, and it played out exactly how I thought. So I start talking. I'm like, I don't know. I guess Batman. And I had some, I don't know. I just bullshitting something, and halfway through, Sean, sure enough, he's like, holy shit, dude. Like, you're going to come up here and say you want to talk to us. You're going to come up and ask that kind of a question. He's like, Jimmy, why are you answering this? You don't want to answer this guy. I'm like, I don't know. Why not answer him? I feel bad. And he's like, no, this is a BS question. You came up here with a mask on, bro. Take off your mask. Like, actually be here. Be authentic. Like, don't try to ask us some BS question that, you want to get some kind of weird connection to. And Sean and it was so funny. And it was kind of a moment for me to realize, yeah, I wasn't being true to myself. I wasn't being authentic, because I did start answering this question. I could have been nice about it. I didn't have to be as direct as Sean was. But at the end of the day, I was doing something I didn't want to do, only to appease, just to make this guy not feel bad. But what he needed, and that's probably the reason why his higher self came and seeked out me and Sean, because I think I'm really direct, but I'm nowhere near as direct as Sean. And Sean gave him what he needed to hear. And long story short, before the night was over, he did it again later the night with 2 of our other buddies, and they both reamed him too. the three of us kind of just, and this dude did not get what he signed up for at this cabin trip. But the next morning he said he didn't sleep and he started bawling, and he told us, he said, "You guys, this is the most important night of my life. Thank you. I've been masking who I am for a decade and trying, like most people in my life, just let me get away with it. They think that I got all these things going on." He's like, "I'm a mess." And he told us how special that was. And his life has literally changed since then. It's been really cool to watch. But so you said, when did I strip all this? I mean, I still am trying to work on it all the time. That was just in February. And, I learned such a powerful lesson. But that's one of the cool things about surrounding yourself with amazing people is I got the lesson from my friends when otherwise I wouldn't have as well.
Good for you guys. I think of certain times in my life where somebody just almost grabbed you and said, "Man up, dude." And then that really made you analyze who you are and what you are. And now it takes other people to teach us these things. We didn't learn it in our homes or from some of our other social circles. So that's a powerful lesson. I hope all of us will go back and rewatch this and re-listen to this as it's released as a podcast. There are so many nuggets in here. Jimmy, thank you very much. And I say this from the bottom of my heart. You've invested an hour of your time in all of our viewers and listeners, and it has just been filled with just so much goodness, and I appreciate that. Share with us a recap of your book in closing here.
Yeah, so this is the book. It's called You End Up Where You're Heading, The Hidden Dangers of Living a Safe Life. And it follows the hero's journey. Like, we all can be the hero of our own story. And it's on Amazon, bestseller since we released it. If you guys go on there, just type in my name, Jimmy Rex, or you can type in the title of the book. I promise you're going to get a lot out of it. But we basically take you through the hero's journey, this path of becoming, the best, highest version of yourself. And so I encourage everybody to pick it up, read it, share it if you like it. But if you kind of feel like you're stuck or you're not really sure to go with your life, the question I always ask people is, if everything were to go right in your life for the next 5 years, what would your life look like? And if you can't answer that question, then you need the book. If you can't answer that question, you need to sit down and actually map that out. But I try to help people get through that and kind of chart where they want to go. And then I teach you how to get there using mentors and how to get past these trials that come your way and all these different things. I use a lot of examples of people in my life and then a lot of my own stories as well. So you'll love it. I think everybody will benefit hugely from reading the book. So I encourage you to go check it out.
The book is You End Up Where You're Heading. The author, Jimmy Rex, entrepreneur, realtor, coach, mentor. Thank you so much for your time today, Jimmy, and continued success to you and all of the many things that you do to live up to your mission, to use your playful soul to make a difference in the world around us. So thank you again for being here. And thank you for everyone joining us on the program today. Keep smiling, keep shining, because someone out there needs to be guided by your light. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Subscribe to Cause TV and listen to the Cause Green audio experience on iTunes and Spotify.